What I want to talk about next, though, is what this first lab activity is going to be on, which is the actuators, and mainly actuators, not sensors yet. So an actuator is any kind of a component mechanism on the system that takes action. It either moves or it allows air to flow, or it's a vacuum cup that, you know, pulls a box and is able to grab a box and pick it up. So anything that it's turning a device on or off, or adjusted, moved, rotated, whatever. So there are both rotary and linear actuators, and there are also vacuum actuators that turn the vacuum on and off. Now, for every actuator, there's also usually at least one sensor. So what you see here is a picture of a vertical actuator, which is up here on the top, and right below it is a rotary actuator. So this thing can go up and down, and it can rotate back and forth 90 degrees. And then down here is a vacuum actuator, which doesn't actually move, but it turns the vacuum on so the box gets picked up. So you'll see on the HAS 200 there are cylinders. That's what this is. It's called a cylinder. Cylinders with vacuum that goes right through the cylinder. Rotary actuators, grippers, all vacuum grippers. And all the actuators are marked with uppercase letters on yellow stickers. Now, if there are sensors that are associated with that actuator, those are marked with small stickers and are marked with lowercase letters. So this is actuator D. You probably can't see it very well, but this sensor is sensing that it's in its up position, and this sensor down here, if it moves down, that sensor will be activated. That senses that it's in its down position. So that basically gives feedback back to the PLC to let it know that even though if it tells an actuator to move, the sensors tell it that it actually did move. So those are the three actuators, and there's a couple of sensors. All right, so I'm going to go through some of the different actuators you're going to see, because I mentioned Lab 1 is going to be about observing the actuators, and you're going to also be using the correct name of each of the actuators. So most of the linear actuators are dual rod actuators, and those are basically it's just two actuators in parallel, two cylinders, I should say, two cylinders in parallel, and it gives the cylinder a better pushing force when you have the two rods. It's just a little more stable and strong. So compressed air gets pumped into one side, pushes the piston out, and if you want to move it back, you can pump the compressed air in the other side and let it flow out of the other side. So these basically air activated, and then back in the system there's an electrical valve that's switching to send the air either one direction or the other. Some of the actuators have rods coming out of both sides. There's a double rod cylinder. And there are a bunch on there that also just have a single rod coming out, which is a simpler version. Some of the actuators are used to pick up objects, like the box, for example, and in those cases, those are specially designed to have a hollow tube in the middle of the rod that you can send a vacuum, you can hook up to a vacuum system and create suction so that then the vacuum cup can pick something up. So it could be done with a separate tube. It's just you end up with this big tube that's kind of flopping around. So it's just a neater way of arranging it. And there are some very small compact cylinders that are just smaller size. Same principle. Air pumps in here to move it out. Air goes in here to pull it back. Let's see. Double acting. So this is just a different size actuator. It's another linear actuator. Then we have some rotary actuators for moving either 90 degrees or 180 degrees, although they could be set to move any angle. But these are just, when they're actuated, they move, and then when you let them go, they spring back to where they were. So these are used anytime you want to grab a box and then pivot 90 degrees or 180 degrees and put the box someplace else. So in addition to the pneumatic actuators, the stations 8 and 9 that are the storage stations have some much more sophisticated electrical actuators, which is a brushless motor connected to a lead screw that can be positioned very precisely anywhere along that lead screw. So this is a whole different class of actuator. Later on, we'll be doing some exercises with that. But in the beginning of the course, we're just going to focus on the basic pneumatic actuators. Then there's one station where instead of a vacuum gripper, a mechanical gripper is used to pick up the box. And so you see the two fingers. This is also pneumatic. When air is pumped in, the fingers close. When it's pumped in the other way, the fingers open. So, okay, so that's an overview of the HAS 200. In the next video, I'm going to give you a little video demo of the system, the actual system itself, and then you're going to be starting to use it. All right, thank you for your attention. Bye-bye.